Recording is starting, so.
Okay, we'll get started.
We are.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. My name is Pam Traylor, and I am here with Jan Farrell. And we're here to talk to Mr. Brian Clark and Miss Julie Hilton from DuValle about conscious discipline. The staff at DuValle have received extensive training and support in conscious discipline, and we would like to know how conscious discipline has changed the culture and climate at DuValle. Mr. Clark and Miss Hilton, thank you so much for being with us today. And our first question to you is, what do you see as the benefits of conscious discipline in the early childhood classroom?
I'll jump in real quick. Benefits that we've seen is definitely some of the strengths is the self-regulation breathing, the practice having children recognize their own strong emotions, working through those in a positive manner. We've definitely seen strengthening of relationships within the classroom, like the creation of a true school family through the practices of conscious discipline. One benefit that I've seen that goes beyond the classroom too is how we as a school culture, a group of educators have come closer together where we view, we're turning that corner to view all of our children as ours and not just hers or not just his, which allows us all to take ownership and all try to help that student and try to benefit them for the better. Ms. Hilton, I'm sure you'd like to add to that.
I would just piggyback on that really and say that we know that children learn best when they have a meaningful relationship with people. And I think conscious discipline has really helped us develop those meaningful relationships through connections and the different ways that we connect with our students every day, whether that's through greetings, through our Brain Smart Start. And so I think that's one of the most important benefits. And the other one that I would say is conscious discipline helps us see misbehavior or the upset child, see that as an opportunity to teach, that they're missing a skill. They're not just misbehaving to get on our nerves or, try to push our buttons. They really are missing some kind of skill that we need to teach. And so I think that's one of the main benefits in our classrooms.
I think building relationships is so important from the ground up. It just turns everything in the classroom, and your climate in the classroom is those relationship building.
Yes, ma'am.
Our next question is, how do you feel conscious discipline has changed the climate of DuValle as a whole? And you can give examples if you can remember.
Miss Julie, I'll let you have first.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I believe this is our 6th year of conscious discipline implementation. We started on this journey a long time ago. Mr. Clark and I kind of started it together. We had been talking about it and we went to a training. But what I've seen in those 6 years is that I do feel we have a very positive climate, and we truly have that school family feel. We talk about each other as a family, and I think we have that school family. We've used the language of conscious discipline not only in our classrooms, but in our staff meetings. We do the Brain Smart Start. We do greetings when we have staff meetings and trainings. And so I think that's helped contribute to that school family notion. One thing that I have observed is that we get a lot of visitors in our building for a variety of reasons, and often they comment just on the welcoming environment, that it feels like a family when they're in our building. A lot of times we'll get an email back from somebody who's been in our building on just what a positive experience it was for them. And when I was trying to think of examples, I remember last year, one of us coaches had to sub in one of our classrooms, and afterwards that coach sent an email back to the teacher, and I just pulled that out, and what she said was to the teacher, "I subbed in your classroom today. It is very evident to me that you must spend a great deal of time teaching social emotional skills and practicing them daily. The children knew how to talk to their friends when a problem arose and were able to work it out without a fuss. That does not happen without intentional teaching." And I just think that's a good testament to what's happening in our classrooms.
Absolutely.
And I agree with Julie on everything she said too. And I would just elaborate a little bit on that, that it really has brought us closer as a school family too, not just a classroom family. Um, we celebrate together as a whole. We cried together sometimes as a whole. Um, when I came to DuValle, dolphins, if you don't know, they're when you get a group of them together, they're a pod. And what I saw was I didn't see one enormous pod. I saw separate pods around the building, little packs of people that had great relationships, but it didn't really extend outside of that, their comfort zone, to other staff members. And I take a lot of pride in how we've all come together, how we all now communicate to one another, how a teacher just doesn't go to the neighbor next door. They talk to other teachers in the building. They talk to other staff members. It's just brought us closer together where we truly do support one another through the good and the bad. We challenge one another to get better over time. And we care about one another, and we genuinely care about our staff and about our school family, and we care about our kids. And I do feel conscious discipline has contributed to that. I do believe that, you groom people, you groom employees to be leaders. At least that's my philosophy. You try to do that. We're always growing together. With that said, you need guidance and direction sometimes of best approaches and best practices. And I feel like conscious discipline has given us that, with our relationship building, our self-regulation, all the tools that go with it. And it has been a major piece of the puzzle that has put us where we are today.
That's wonderful.
It sounds like I never did conscious discipline in my classroom, but I know my favorite years of teaching was in a place that was a family-oriented atmosphere. And I mean, if you have happy teachers and assistants, you have happy children. So conscious discipline has just added to that. So, thank you for your work.
So our next question is, how do you support as well as challenge teachers and assistants who did not buy in to conscious discipline right away?
I'll start on that one, Julie. When I read this question, and Julie and I did have a chance to talk a little bit beforehand, what we saw was a little different. Very rarely did we come across anyone. We were trying to think, and I think we may have thought of one time, but very rarely did we come across someone that was just like, I don't want to do this. Conscious discipline is a journey. And when you say journey, a lot of times people think it's the journey as a school, which it is. But conscious discipline is your own independent journey too. What you have to do is you have to be patient with people, because you're asking them to think a little differently than what they're used to. Or maybe a lot of times we as adults use the skills that we were raised with, and those may not always line up well with conscious discipline practices and beliefs. So a lot of it comes with patience, understanding where each person is coming from on their learning curve or on their journey with conscious discipline. But then it's also pointing out the positive. It's a skill in conscious discipline Julie always reminds me of. It's called noticing. And when you notice that they do something that is conscious discipline and you point that out to them, that encouragement also helps them to want to repeat that, because, hey, I saw you use this skill. It worked great for you. Did you see what the kid did, how they responded back to you? I just wanted you to know you have some conscious discipline in you and you don't even know you have it. So you encourage what they're good at, and that gives them the independent courage to try the next step or to try the next thing with conscious discipline. Because you can't always see it working when you're the one in the woods, so to say. You can't see outside the woods. But then when you have other people like your coach or one of your teammates, a peer teacher, your principal, that identifies that and helps you to see that, sometimes that's all you need, is that little push, that little encouragement to try the next thing with conscious discipline. So as a leader, you have to be patient with everyone, and you really have to look at them under a microscope of where they're at in their journey, and then think about, how could I encourage them with that next step? And they get a lot of that encouragement from their peers too when they share in PLCs, when we are able to provide some additional trainings, and do give them opportunities to be together and talk about conscious discipline. So really, it's not as much about any negativity as it is just people initially are a little nervous about it because it's new to them. And our job is to make them feel more comfortable. And then, yes, expectations are involved, and I'll let Julie speak to that piece.
So one thing that popped into my mind immediately is that a person really has to be willing and open to start on this journey on conscious discipline. It's not something that you can force. We can say, these are required curriculums and you will teach these in your classroom, but conscious discipline is different than that. We did do some things though once we came back from our training and brainstormed ways to begin to take those first steps. And so there were expectations set for implementing certain things like greetings at the classroom door or the breathing strategies. And what I noticed is that as people begin to implement those, then they begin to see the benefits. And so then the buy-in increases, even if they maybe were a little resistant or questioning, is this just one more thing that's going to come and go? And what, just on a personal note, what I've noticed is the more I stay on this journey, how much it's honestly changed my life. And really, during NTI, if I didn't have the skills of conscious discipline, I'm not sure I would be weathering this storm so well, because the journey really becomes self-motivating to continue to learn and continue to practice the skills and to know more. And so I think it really is, it's not something that can be forced. And I, like Mr. Clark said, noticing when I was in the classroom, I tried to model skills or routines or rituals. So just providing that example and letting them observe, I think was helpful as everybody got on board in different stages.
What significant changes do you see in students and staff after implementing conscious discipline at DuValle?
Go ahead, Ms. Julie.
All right. I think the main thing that I would say is two things: seeing upset or those chaotic times, those challenging behavior times as a teachable moment. We've always heard that, behavior is communication, but I think it really has allowed our staff and students to see the teachable moment, and through the structures and routines put in place, begin to develop those self-regulation skills, both as children and adults. And I also think that the idea that we are a school family, we're all in this together. And, we have had some children with significant challenges based on traumatic experiences, all kinds of things. And what I've noticed is that the school comes together. So the student may be in one person's class, but they're riding on the bus with an assistant from another class, but that assistant is equally invested in helping that child, if they're having a difficult time, transition to the bus, and using the skills and breathing and rituals and all the things that help our students. It's just that team effort, that these are our students and we're going to work together as a team to help them be safe, and to be successful, to develop that resilience that they need. And I think the other thing I want to say is that one piece of conscious discipline that really helps is once you begin to understand and learn about the brain states, because our brain state affects everything that we do. And so when a child is in that state of upset, they're either in their survival state or their emotional state. And I, as the adult, have to make sure that I am in my calm executive state before I address that child, because a child can't be on a higher level than I am when I'm trying to interact with them or support them. And so learning about the brain states, I think, provides the meat to really understand why it works and how to approach a situation. And I think that's key.
Yeah, I agree completely with what Julie said. We're definitely on the same page in our thought process. The only thing I would add is for the kids, the families, and the adults that work in the building, one of the significant changes I started seeing was you had some kids that were connected to the school family. You had some kids that were not, and it was the same for adults that worked in the building. It's the same for families. You had some families that were connected to the school, involved, participating, some that were not. So bringing in these pieces, and especially now during virtual, the parents being able to see more of the pieces in action in a virtual setting, it's helped us to connect, to become part of the school together. And once you're connected, that's when your relationships blossom and things of that nature. That's when trust is developed. That's when you can start to do amazing things for kids and families. And so that was a big part of the significant change. Was now I believe that I see everyone connected to the school family, and everyone, like Julie said, encouraging one another, being there for one another. And it's changed from an I, like a what I need, to a what do we need? What do we need as a school? Um, Conscious discipline too has helped me personally in my democratic approach to leadership too, helping to develop those relationships, helping to encourage and kind of be behind a teacher when they need help, and to help them try to think about conscious discipline and what do they need, how can we blend in things, how can we support them. So it's really kind of changed our outlook of an I approach. I'm in this alone. I don't know what I'm going to do, to know I do know there are supports, there are people who care, and let's all get together and let's try to do what's best for this kid. And so it's really connected everyone to the school family too.
Here I have an off the cuff question. Julie and Brian, have you seen the skills like practice more at the family level? So they're trying to practice the same skills that maybe they've learned about through their child?
It kind of depends, Miss Jan. Like we did have a so to say, like we had a conscious discipline night. Like any family night, you would have loved to have seen even more people there, but the individuals that were there shared greetings. We what we thought about was what pieces of conscious discipline could we pass on to parents that they might want to use in their homes. And not that us telling you how you should develop your kids social emotionally, but let's show you what we do, give you the information you would need if you wanted to replicate that at home. So we have had parents that have dropped off in-person instruction and stayed for the greeting or the brain smart start, and they might participate. One piece I can say is a lot of times when we meet with families, like if we have a tough case and we're starting to talk about what it looks like at school, but then we're talking about what it looks like at home, more than once we have brought in conscious discipline and provided some of those techniques to the parent that they have told us, that they have taken home, they appreciate, and they're using with their child. So we have used it in different ways with families. We think virtual has helped a lot to let them see what we do, and hopefully they're piggybacking some of that at home. I've been in a couple of virtual rooms where the parent is doing the pinky wave, on the screen next to their kid. They're participating too. So I think it's more case by case right now, but that is one of our goals in the future. Is now let's start to hit harder with our families and bringing them in on this, and what a world it would be if a kid was getting conscious discipline at home too. So that is a goal for the future, but we have done work with families in the area.
And I think that you answered one of our other questions that we had with how you're involving the parents. And I think that partnership is so important for the well-roundedness of the child, to be able to know that the parents and the teachers, the staff, the school all work together to develop the child.
It really is, yeah, it really is the same way as Julie described viewing behavior. You know, how quick can we get frustrated and say in our minds, like, I can't never get a hold of this parent, or I can't get this parent to do this. You know, it goes back to most of the time of, you know, families are a lot of times doing the best they can, and they may not have these skills that are needed to be able to address some of these things that we know their child needs help with. It's not much different from kids to adults. Some of our parents have those skills, some do not. It's how do we give them those skills to where they can be successful at home. You know, it goes a lot better when you're offering a parent an idea, or they see you being a part of the solution, than just simply, I need you to come to a meeting and hear how inappropriate your child has acted. You know, there always needs to be a positive about the student. Every kid has positives. And then when you're working on things to improve the student, it has to be a team approach. If you can get the parent buy-in, your odds of making significant change greatly increase with the parent involvement. But sometimes we have to coach them and give them the skills too. And a lot of times they give us insights as well, you know, that we did not know about their child. So it is truly a partnership.
Yes, it is. So you were talking about those significant changes. How long do you feel like it took for some of those changes to really take place in your school, or when did you see it? Do you feel like it took days, weeks, months before you saw significant change?
I think when we talked about and kind of reflected on our journey, it was in weeks and months, not maybe in days. But as we begin to implement some of the things, we took those first small steps with the greeting, the brain smart start, the breathing. And after a few weeks of implementation and staff sharing, you know, how fun it was, you know, how connected they felt, how they could notice a difference. You know, I would really say it was in those weeks to months, but I also would say that it's an ongoing journey, and we continue to see significant changes. I know, I think not last year because we were in NTI, but the year before that, at the end of the school year, we shared in one of our final PLCs with teachers about celebrations for the year, and hearing truly some of the testimonials about how conscious discipline had worked for their students. We were all, you know, it was emotional. We all in our classrooms have some children with really tough circumstances and tough situations that they're dealing with. And I think conscious discipline tells us we have to persevere. We have to continue. Oftentimes children with traumatic experiences or whatever reason that are coming to school with the challenging behaviors are relationship resistant. And so we have to not give up when they push us away. We have to continue to work to make those connections. But when we do, then we do see those changes. And that in itself, then I think provides the fuel to continue on the journey, because you can see that it does work. It does make a positive impact. It does help children develop skills that they're going to be able to use for a lifetime to regulate their own behavior, to calm themselves when they're in a moment of upset. And so, you know, I think we continue to see the positive changes, but we did see them within the first few weeks and months.
Yeah, I would agree completely with Julie that probably the first couple weeks when we put in some expectations on some of those initial pieces and then seeing them use it in the room. And then what was important was making a time to come back where we could talk about it as a team. So we made it a point, you know, staff meetings where we could come back and you've been doing greetings now for 2 weeks. how do you feel? What does it look like? What have you seen? Um, we model. We've had staff meetings where we model greetings as the teachers come in, where we do brain start smarts before we even start our teacher leader meetings. We try to also, we've had PDs with outside guests come in where we start with the brain start smart and have them do it with us. If you do know your conscious discipline practices, brain smart's all about uniting too, bringing everybody together. And so, you start to model it for the teachers. You start to hear their reflection about how it's going. You start to give them pieces of advice, or you start to encourage, and then you start to see people taking more and more risks, because really it is a risk for them because they're not necessarily used to the practices at that point. For me personally, my change happened at the training. I was with Julie, went with me. We didn't know each other near as well as we do now. I'm ex-military. I was a counselor before, but I was never really touchy-feely, so to say. And here I am walking in a training where everything is about building connections and being vulnerable, and it was a real challenge for me that first day because I was grouped up with. They split us up immediately, so I'm grouped up with a bunch of people I don't know, and then I'm having to do "I love you" rituals with people that are complete strangers to me.
Wow.
But I did. I made myself vulnerable. I put myself out there. I lived within my uncomfortable state for a while. But by the end of it, I felt connected to those individuals, and I couldn't even tell you to this day where half of them were from. But just through those activities, we were having conversations at break time about our families. We were, and these were people I literally just met the day before. So I kind of took that back and was thinking, wow, if it can have that kind of impact on a guy that, is not conscious discipline very much at all, I was thinking, wow, if we do this the right way, it could really make a difference in our school. And it has. It's made a huge difference. It's just not giving up. It's doing your research, having an understanding about the brain model and those things Julie's talking about. And it's okay to say oops, to have a moment where you catch yourself and you're like, oh, I could have done that so much better. Well, we all go through it, and that's what I tell teachers all the time. That was an oops moment. We all have that, and the difference is you reflected on it, and you've already told me what you would do different the next time, and that's what a lot of it is about, growing as you go through time.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now that question kind of bled into this next question, and I think Julie, and it's like, when was the turning point for you with when you realized conscious discipline was not just another curriculum, but that it was a mind transformation and philosophy?
I think we knew that going in. I think we knew, it's not a boxed curriculum or program per se. I think we knew that. I had been to a session during a summer institute at the Galt House, and I had learned a little bit about it, and Mr. Clark and I had been talking about it in the fall, and then this opportunity to go to a training in December came up. And so I think we knew going in that it was really going to be more of a framework to support what was already happening in our schools. But certainly going to that training, like Mr. Clark said, I mean, you definitely, it was a little strange in the beginning. You're linking arms with your boss and, kind of up in their face doing these I love you rituals. And it was like, okay, it's a good thing that I like working with you, but it is a little uncomfortable. But certainly I think that was part of our journey too, as professionals who work together, but also, I consider Mr. Clark part of my family, and, we can share successes and oops and all of those things. So, and I think we realized the power as we saw it begin to work with some of our most challenging students. And even in the small ways too, just what a difference the greetings made. You might have had that kid that got off the bus and fell down the steps and they're crying going down the hallway, but you get to the door and you get a greeting from your teacher, who's on your eye level and saying, do you want the frog greeting, or do you want the Thomas the Train greeting? And it just sets the tone for the day, and just what a positive impact.
That's great. So our next question is, what have you found to be the obstacles or challenges in the implementation of conscious discipline?
I'll let Mr. Clark go first.
Yeah, we identified definitely a couple, and one that is a challenge is of course the being able to do some continual training, especially with our support staff, and it's just the makeup of our day and how we have to schedule, and it makes for some real challenges. We've had opportunities to work to get them out for embedded, but as time goes on, it gets a little more difficult. And so follow-up training is a challenge. Now, virtually with the videos, that does help quite a bit. But that's one challenge area we identified. And the other one we identified, and Julie may have a couple more that are personal to her, but it is hard with early childhood. As kids qualify, we may have to create new classrooms in the middle of the year, and it's real challenging. We've built in a few pieces at our, orientation, so to say, when you're first hired at DuValle, but some real in-depth stuff, training in conscious discipline, is very challenging to do when a teacher comes in December.
Right.
So we have to keep those pieces in mind. Those are definitely two challenges.
And I think the same. I will share, I don't think we've shared in the questions. We started with the book study, and this is the Conscious Discipline book. And I think most of our classrooms received that book a couple of years ago when the RTC did the preschool pandemonium. So we started with the book study with our teachers. And so we were doing that. And then we did that the first year. The second year, then we did the book study with our support staff. We worked really hard. Our office team, who does amazing things, was able to jiggle and juggle schedules. So we could train with our support staff. And I think that's an important piece of the foundation. Yes, you can begin to implement some of the rituals and routines, and those are important pieces, and they make great connections for our students and have a positive impact. But really digging into the brain research, the reason why it works, the 7 powers of conscious discipline, and the 7 skills, that's going to support your continued learning. And so those pieces are important in the journey. I think the book study was foundational. Like Mr. Clark said, we did develop kind of an orientation for new staff hired at DuValle, and about an hour of that training is foundational conscious discipline pieces. And what I've noticed in the past couple of years, because our teams are getting stronger and stronger, is that staff can come in and more quickly acclimate to some of the things with conscious discipline because of the strong teams and because of the strength of the family. Whereas when we started, 6 years ago, it was much harder to immerse a new staff person into conscious discipline. And like he said, I think the virtual training options that we've had have given staff opportunity to learn more about it. And I mean, the website, if people can get connected to the website or the Conscious Discipline YouTube channel and begin to watch some of the videos, not only the inspirational videos, but the videos about the brain state model or about using a specific skill, then I think that really helps with the journey as well.
Great.
Has this affected the continuity of teachers and assistants, do you think, at DuValle with turnover?
I think that there is a strong feeling of school family, and we have many staff who say, I don't want to be anywhere else except DuValle. I hear more people say that every year, but there are a lot of other factors that influence
Sure.
all staff and the reasons they make decisions. Sometimes they want to be closer to home, for many reasons. And so I don't think conscious discipline alone will keep them at DuValle if they have a need like that. They're trying to be closer to their home, so they're closer to their kids and things. But I do think it plays into staff retention and staff satisfaction at the
Yeah.
school where they are. Because I do hear staff say that we love DuValle. I mean, we've had people interview and then who are hired that talked about just the feeling they got when they were in the building and the school family. So I think it does have a positive impact.
Absolutely. Everyone feels that when you go into a building.
Mhm.
And I think too that that sense of family is there, but also what comes with that sense of family is, like Julie said, understanding that some individuals have other things in their lives. It could be career goals. It could be, like
Certainly.
Julie said, I need to get closer to home, or it could be a matter of having a sick relative, or maybe it's just about childcare. And that's why with me, it's a big deal that, know that you're leaving, you're still part of our family. You're a legacy at DuValle. You're always welcome back. And we do have people that leave us, but then come back to visit. I just got an email from a support staff member that was at DuValle 3 years ago. I just got an email from her last week. And the reason why I got the email was because we've had some tough stuff, sickness and things that have been happening with our staff the last couple of weeks. We even lost a staff member here recently.
Yeah.
And this individual that left us did not even know this staff member. This staff member came after they left, but yet they wrote us to extend their condolences to our school family because they know they're still a part of that family. And so I think even when people leave us, what Julie and I take pride in is, like, we know of teachers that have left us and gone to other early childhood locations, and then we hear about from their building leader or their coach, well, they really are using that conscious discipline. That's how we pass it forward. And that's, I would never be upset with someone because they have reasons of why they need to leave. I believe everyone should be happy and love the job that they're doing. But I also know that when people leave us, they're taking that knowledge with them too. And they're impacting kids in other schools. And that makes me feel pretty satisfied too, knowing that our beliefs as a school are kind of spreading out as people leave us and go to other places too. But there's still legacies. They always know they're welcome back. And that's just part of life. People sometimes have to leave for whatever reason. And of course we would love them to stay, but we understand.
Awesome. And I think it's a testament to you and to Julie as well, and all the hard work that you've put in and all the examples and modeling that you have shown. And our last question that we have today for you is, we have a lot of brand new teachers out there. And some of them have never even been introduced to conscious discipline. Some may have just started, and we just want for you to share some wisdom or some guidance. What would you say to those brand new teachers who are just starting out with conscious discipline?
Okay, you'll probably hear similarities between Julie and me here, but maybe even some differences with her in the role of a coach. But I would, for young teachers, if possible, it is important to look at the book. And as you read that book, you're gonna probably feel one of two ways. Either like, oh my gosh, this is great, I want to jump in and do everything, or you're gonna feel like, oh my gosh, how do I fit this in? This is a lot. In both cases, I say the same thing. Start with pieces. Think about your daily schedule. What can I fit in a welcome each day? Can myself or one of my staff members be at the door? Can I incorporate some additional greetings as the year goes on, mix it up? Can I fit wish you well into my morning meeting? You know, if I do it correctly, it should take me all of 2 or 3 minutes to fit that in. You know, you start looking at your daily schedule, you start thinking about what pieces could have a positive impact that's not going to make me have to change my whole day. And then you'll start to see the benefits of it. And then I think as time goes on, you start to think about what else can I incorporate. Once you start getting those incorporation pieces in, then you need to start thinking about what does it look like, the brain state model, about what does it mean for me to be in control and in my executive state, like Miss Julie talked about earlier. What does that look like? What does that mean before I approach a child? You know, then you have to start having talks about how do I bring my classroom team along too. You know, you got to include them because it's going to take the whole team. It can't just be the teacher doing it and then the support staff or as a lot of teachers say, the other teachers in the room are not doing it. It will not give you the effect you're looking for creating a school family unless you have everyone on board and involved. And then I'll let Julie go ahead with her thoughts.
I would share the same thing. Start with small steps. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. I would say, just as we were talking and thinking about this, the time is ripe for exploring conscious discipline. As we continue in NTI and look to returning to our schools, our students are going to need the skills to develop resiliency and self-regulation and know how to handle big emotions as we come back to school more than ever. And I truly believe in the power of conscious discipline. When you all first sent the email to ask us about doing the interview, and I was just thinking about conscious discipline, I think one of the main things is that it is that adult first model and that I have to be willing to do it and learn it and practice it before I can teach it to somebody else. But it does become that it just feeds your desire to continue to do more, because I think I said this earlier, but as I greet students at the door and they're getting that connection, I'm getting the connection as well. I'm getting the feel good endorphins. So that helps my day as well. As I'm teaching them to breathe, I'm doing the same thing. So it's breaking any stress cycle because of maybe I've had a crazy morning and the breakfast wasn't ready and you know, my assistant called in and everything's going bad. But as I breathe with my students, I break that stress cycle and I can take myself out of that emotional state. When I do the Brain Smart Start, not only are my kids connecting and uniting, I'm connecting with them. And so you begin to see how positively it's impacting your life. And I think that just supports your desire to continue to learn more. The other thing I would say is that you can do this in the classroom. I think in your own classroom, if you're one classroom of 3 at an elementary school, you can choose to do this in your classroom, even if your other 2 classrooms at your school aren't ready for it or willing. You can still do it in your classroom. I think we see large positive results because we are in a center and we're doing it now in our 6th year. But don't think that you can just start tomorrow or next week and be at the same place DuValle is, because it is a journey. And you have to take the journey. You can't just skip any of the steps. And so learning the foundations, putting things in practice, talking with each other, that's all part of the journey. And so if you believe in it, you know, then commit to being on the journey. Give yourself permission when you mess up to say that oops and realize that mistakes are opportunities to learn. You know, look at others with positive intent. You know, practice the skill of encouragement and empathy, all of those things that you learn as you go. Like I said, they have been a lifesaver to me during the pandemic for sure. And I'm just thankful for the journey we started 6 years ago. and how it impacts not only my professional work, but my personal work as well.
Very inspiring. Very inspiring. We want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and your passion about conscious discipline with us. We want to remind everyone that Conscious Discipline website is free right now, and there's some wonderful resources out there. I looked at some also on the weekend and realizing I didn't even know the NTI resources. They have a whole section for NTI resources out there that could be helping right now. And know that today, obviously, is a little different format. We have a whole lot of trainings out there, and you are only having to pick one, but the rest of them are out there. And if you need help or want to look at more than just the one that you're required to do, please do so. And as Julie and Mr. Clark talked about, the book is the great first step. And if you have not already started with the book and you really are feeling passionate about this, begin. And you can talk to your instructional coach about it. You can work with your team and start your own book study and start having those conversations together. It's a wonderful place to start. And please reach out to your instructional coach, to your principal, if you need any additional support. Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you. And
Thank you for having
all
us.
the children at DuValle.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys having us very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.